Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Entertainment with Buford and Francis. Today I'll be cosplaying as Francis from the Fairly Odd Parents. I'll be telling the story of the Black Cauldron. Enjoy the video. On the small farm of Caer Dalben, Taran, a young boy, relegated to the life of an assistant pig keeper, longs for joining the war against the evil Horned King and becoming a hero despite the insistence of Dalben Guardian that war is no game. On a nondescript morning, Henwen, the pig Taran looks after, seems to go crazy. Dalben explains that Henwen is a magical pig who can create visions using water, which Taran was previously unaware of. Using Henwen's powers, Dalben discovers the Horned King is after the Black Cauldron and that he seeks to capture Henwen and use her to find it. Realizing that Henwen simply cannot fall into the hands of the Horned King, Dalben orders Taran to leave the farm and take Henwen into hiding. And the Horned King, who plans to resurrect a number of fallen warriors as an army of zombies, known as the Cauldron-born, is in a plot to capture the Black Cauldron. Meanwhile, Terrence starts daydreaming about being a warrior, but is shaken out of it when he sees that Henwen is gone. Taran looks for her in the forest, instead encountering a strange creature named Gurgi, who likes apples. Gurgi insists on being Taran's friend, but Taran is annoyed by Gurgi's mischievous behavior. In the midst of their confrontation, Taran hears a squeal and finds that Henwen is being chased by the Gwythents, dragon-like creatures that serve the Horned King. Taran attempts to rescue her, but the Gwythents carry her off. He follows them to the Horned King's dark castle. Determined to save Henwen, Taran heads for the castle, but the cowardly Gurgi elects to remain behind. Taran sneaks into the castle and finds his way to a banquet hall filled with the king's partying henchmen, apparently celebrating the capture of the pig. The festivity ends abruptly when the Horned King appears, and Creeper, a creature that serves the king, orders Henwen to be brought out. Creeper orders the pig to reveal the location of the Black Cauldron, but she refuses. Taran stumbles onto the scene, and the king, realizing Taran is the owner of the pig, orders him to make Henwen reveal the location of the Black Cauldron. Taran refuses, but when the king orders for Henwen to be beheaded, he relents. Taran ends up spooked by the Horned King's appearance, helps Henwen escape before being captured. Thrown into the dungeons, Taran is left to brood over his failure. Just then, a piece of floor opens and a magic bauble pops out, followed by a princess. She introduces herself as Princess Elenwy and is disappointed when she finds out that Taran isn't a warrior. Nevertheless, they team up to escape the castle. While exploring the dungeon, they share their stories about how they got thrown into the dungeon. Elenwy was captured because the Horned King thought her bauble could tell him where the cauldron was, and like Taran, she was thrown into the dungeons when his plan failed. They come across a burial chamber where Taran obtains a sword. They then enter a room where a minstrel is being chained by another henchman. The minstrel, Fluter Flam, tries to convince the henchman to let him go. But everything he says is a lie. He is cursed, and every time he lies, one of the strings on his harp snaps. Taran and Elenwy attempt to save him free, but then they hear more henchmen coming. They run for it. While Fluter tries to save himself, Taran and Elenwy get separated. Suddenly, Taran runs into a guard wielding an axe. The guard attempts to kill Taran, but before he can strike, Taran pulls out his sword, Durnwin, and uses it to block the axe. The sword magically damages the axe, and the horrified guards run away. Excited over the magic sword, Taryn plays with it for a while, but then Eloise shows up and they continue onward. They run into more guards, and Taryn defects them with the magic sword. Meanwhile, Fluter has escaped the dungeon, but is being chased by a dog. Taryn slows down the guards by slashing some wine barrels with the sword. Taryn and Eloise finally make it to the entrance of the castle, only to find the drawbridge closed. Creeper and the other henchmen have them cornered. Then Taryn uses the sword to cut the chain to the drawbridge, allowing it to fall down. Creeper and the guards stand back in fright, while Fluter bowls past them. Taryn and Eloise make it past the closing gate, but Fluter barely makes it with his pants ripped, and together they escape into the forest. Back in the castle, Creeper nervously goes to the Horned King's throne room and informs the master of the pig keeper's escape. He attempts to choke himself as punishment, but is surprised to find out his master likes the news. If Taryn has escaped, he'll find the pig, and then he can capture them both again. The king orders him to send the Gwithens to follow the boy, which Creeper thankfully does. In the forest, Fluter is singing with the heroes, while Eloise is sewing his pants. They are all very thankful that they made it out of the castle alive. But Taryn starts to become arrogant and says that he wasn't afraid. He and Eloise get into an argument, wherein the princess runs off crying. Taryn storms out in the opposite direction, ignoring Fluter's attempts to make peace. Taryn apologizes to her, and she forgives him immediately because they all need to work together to find the cauldron before the Horned King does. Just then, they hear Fluter yell for help. Taryn draws his sword in a case of danger, but sheathes it when he realizes that Fluter's assailant is none other than Gurgi. After an argument, Gurgi reveals that he knows where Hen Wen is, and the others follow him. They come to an enchanted whirlpool and are sucked down. They find themselves in an underground universe, peopled by pixies and ruled by the kindly King Idaleg. He does not like humans in his home, the whirlpool, maintained by the bad-tempered court workman Dolly, is supposed to keep them out. Nevertheless, he helps them. He knows where the Black Cauldron is, and instructs Dolly to take them to Morva, the land where it is hidden. He also has Hen Wen, and she and Taryn are reunited, but Taryn is afraid to take her to Morva. The king says that he will send her back to Dalban's farm. He then conjures up magic clouds to transport Dolly and the travelers to Morva. The cauldron, it turns out, is in a cottage governed by 3 witches, Oridu, Orwend, and Orgach. They have a larder full of frogs. There's a strong implication that they are humans who stole from the witches in the past, which are to be eaten. Orwend takes a fancy to Fluter, will not allow him to be turned into a frog. The witches reveal that they never give anything away. They trade. Taryn, seeing that they have nothing else of value to offer, trades his sword for the cauldron. A storm blows up, and the heroes are transported outside. The earth shakes, and the Black Cauldron emerges from it. The witches, now in the forms of clouds, inform the heroes that the Black Cauldron can never be destroyed, but only its evil powers can be stopped. The living being must climb into the cauldron of its own free will. However, the good person shall never climb out alive. Then they disappear, saying they always keep a bargain. Gurgi, in a rare burst of bravery, had agreed to jump into the cauldron, but on hearing that he will die, his courage falls him. Later, the heroes are sitting around a fire trying to figure out what to do with the cauldron. Dolly gets frustrated and disappears. Taran blurts out that he's nothing without the sword, but Elenwe assures him that he is somebody. He just needs to believe in himself. Taran is about to reply with the fluter, and Gurgi look on with happy eyes, seeing that the pair are attracted to each other. Then Taran turns to all of them, saying they've all been good friends thus far. Just then, a cry is heard. The Gwithens circle about their heads. They have found them. Gurgi sneaks to safety. When the others try to make a run for it, they're stopped in their tracks by the Horned King's henchmen. Gurgi looks sadly at his captured friends. Back at the Horned King's castle, Creeper orders another cart to be taken into the castle. He then taunts the 3 captured friends while preparing the cauldron for his master. The Horned King then enters, acknowledges the 3 heroes for finding the cauldron for him, then prepares them for what fate has in store for you. He picks up a dead warrior, puts it in the cauldron, and begins his great spell. The cauldron brings all the dead warriors to life in the castle and transforms them into cauldron-born. All the Horned King's henchmen run away in fear. The 3 heroes begin to disappear, as now all hope seems lost. Creeper takes his master to the tallest tower so they can get a better view of the undead leaving the castle. Meanwhile, Gurgi sneaks into the castle, evading the horrifying soldiers brought to life by the cauldron. He reaches Taran and the others and rescues everyone. Remembering the witch's advice, Taran makes up his mind, and then and there he'll sacrifice himself to destroy the black magic. Elenwe begs him not to, but is unable to stop him. Gurgi jumps in front of him, however, and insists that he sacrifice himself instead. He walks toward the cauldron and says his final desolate words. Taran has many friends. Gurgi has no friends. Taran then tries to stop him, but Gurgi jumps into the cauldron and destroys the black magic. Outside, Creeper and the Horned King watch in shock as their undead army falls and dies. Blaming Creeper for the screw-up, the king chokes his slave and decides to throw him into the cauldron to start the spell working again. Taran tells Elenwe and Fluter to leave the castle when he attempts to save Gurgi as the king and Creeper enter the chamber. They see Taran is free. Creeper blames Taran for the incident, and the king drops him and turns his anger on the boy. You have interfered for the last time. Now, Pig Creeper, you shall die. He attempts to throw Taran into the cauldron, but suddenly the wind issuing from the cauldron turns on him, and he cannot escape. He screams in anger, and he is violently sucked in. Once he's gone, Creeper begins to mourn for his master, but then realizes he is now free, will never be throttled again, and starts laughing. The cauldron sinks into the ground. The castle begins to crumble. Taran finds his friends waiting for him. They escape in a longboat as the castle explodes and falls into the water. Creeper, still laughing, flies away on a Gwithaint. Taran and his friends have just made it to shore when the cauldron rises from the water. Again, in the form of clouds, the witches reappear, decide the heroes have no more use for the cauldron, and prepare to take it back. But Fluter reminds them that they always keep a bargain by trade. Ordu doesn't want to give up the sword, but Orda and Orwin do. Orwin gives it to Taran. Taran no longer wants the sword, but will trade it instead for Gurgi's life. Ordu deems it impossible, but when Fluter starts goading them, they take away the cauldron and the sword and leave a lifeless Gurgi in the cauldron's place. The heroes look tearfully at Gurgi, and Taran picks him up to hold him, but suddenly Gurgi reaches for munchies and crunchies. Everyone is ecstatic to see him alive again. Furthermore, he pushes Taran and Princess Elenwe's heads together when they are staring at each other, and they share a kiss. They all head home together back at the farm. Dilben, Dolly, and Henwin are all watching the heroes through a vision. They all agree that Taran did very well on his first adventure.